Okay, we're on part two, I think. We got the general shape, the exterior shape kind of figured out. Well, the overall dimensions anyway. And we just got to shape it all to kind of look like a gun stock and feel like a gun stock and fit my shooting style. And then we got to sand it all down. So, I guess first we get started here, kind of mark off where my hand position would be. We want to relieve some of the area where that base of the thumb sits and where my pointer finger will address the trigger. I'm going to round off all the edges and basically take down some of the bulk. This is probably the longest section because it's all done by hand. I mean, this must have taken I don't know how many hours, but condensed it down quite a bit. The file I'm using there is a Shinto file. I think it's a Japan file. Just found it off Amazon. Um, makes makes shaping a lot easier. I have a bunch of RAS files and all kinds of files, but that Shinto file really works good at taking down heavy areas. Right now, I'm just trying to address that section of the butt and comb that when I dropped the stock, it chipped off. I cut off the rear portion of the stock, but it wasn't enough to address the total chip. So we're gonna cut off part of the comb. I guess we don't need the whole comb to be there. So we're just gonna cut off the right side of the comb so that it'll hide that chip break off part. Just using I think this is a ball end, probably about a half-inch ball end router bit. Just slowly going down on it, just hacking off sections until that chip was gone. And there we go, the chip is gone. I guess in retrospect, I could have gone a lot more and brought the weight of the stock down quite a bit more, but this is the first stock I'm doing, so I think maybe the next one will address some of well, we'll modify it, based on what I figured out from this first one. But a lot of this work, there is no design, there's nothing we're copying from or following or anything, so it's pretty much you pick it up, you file off a section, sand it off, and then pick it up, look at it, and file off another section, and just keep going back and forth and back and forth, until you kind of got I guess a gun stock or something that resembles a gun stock. Right here, we're looking to reduce the butt a bit. So since I took off some of the comb on the other side, figuring we don't have to keep all of the comb on this side, we'll just leave an area where the cheek rest will be, and we'll take it down to sort of match the other side a little bit. In the end, it's probably not going to match how much I take down from the left and from the right of the butt, since it's just going at it by hand. It's probably going to be off center in the end, but we'll try to get it close, at least by eye anyway. Just a standard router with a bearing on the top. Just using that piece of wood to follow and just taking off. I think I took off about a quarter of an inch or just shy of a quarter of an inch. And we'll get back with the Shinto RAS file and we'll just keep shaping. It's a pretty good file. It takes down a lot of material pretty fast. One side is a coarse file. You flip it over, it's a finer tooth on the other side. But I don't think I even used the finer tooth side. I just used the coarse side to hack away at most of the material. When I got down to the finer parts, we just went to sandpaper, I think. But we'll try and speed up as much as we can here. So I got done with most of the shaping, more or less. Well, at least on that left side of the stock. Now we got to figure out where my palm's going to rest. We got to take out that area for the palm swell now. There's a little knot on the bottom of the pistol grip there. I tried to fill it in with epoxy, but it just doesn't look good, so we're just gonna try and incorporate taking out that knot with where the palm rests. Again, there's just nothing to follow. You just file away, look at it, file away, look at it. Once you got the general shape down and I started sanding it, there was some chainsaw marks from the rough cut of the block of wood. I had to use a 60 grit on that random orbit sander. Tried to use the belt sander, but didn't work out too well. So we went to random orbit and we used 60 grit to take out the chainsaw marks, and then all the file marks left from that Shinto rasp file. I used the 120 grit. That the rasp leaves a pretty deep scratches in the wood, so we had to go down to 120. I probably could have gone down to 100 or 80, but then I'd have to come back and hit it with some about 120 anyway again. So I think we went 120, all the places the sander could hit, and then we sanded the rest by hand where the curves are too tight. I think then I went down to 220 and I stopped at 220, but the 220 was really fast, just one quick pass over everything. Couldn't really see any scratches in the wood left by the 120, but I thought we'd hit it anyway with the 220. Didn't want it showing up later anyway. So once we got that all done, then that's pretty much what it looks like there. It's not much detail in the wood. Most of it is really dark. There's no contrasting parts, so then we got to work on the butt pad, recoil pad next. So what I did was I went to Walmart, walked around the footwear section. I thought maybe I could find a really cheap discounted pair of shoes or slippers or something I can use as a rubber. Because I have hard rubber, but I think it was just too hard. So I found this size 13 pair of slippers there. I know the recoil pad to fit my length of pull had to be somewhere between a 1/4 inch and about a 1/2 inch. So this slipper was right in there. I think it was about a 1/2 inch, but I know once I sanded it down, I get it right around 3/8, which would have been perfect. So we just went with this pair of slippers. This is the largest one I could find because there's some contours for your sole, and we'd have to find the flattest area so that it'd be the least amount of sanding later. It's not much science in this. You just try and find the flattest area of that slipper and trace it out. I was actually trying to get the thicker part of the slipper too, because I wasn't exactly sure after I sanded it down if it would be thick enough, but I chose the dead center. Just speed up this next part here. It's just roughing the shape out, trying to get rid of these extra parts that might hinder the next section. So haven't really figured out how I was gonna final trim it now, but we're just gonna sand it flat, trying to get that heel contour out. Yeah, it worked better when we clamped down the belt sander. So just trying to get it evenly flat. Once you did that, just a matter of sticking it on. Thought about making a base plate and then gluing that heel onto the base plate and then screwing it into the butt, but I think I didn't allow enough room for that in the overall dimensions, so maybe next time I'll do that. Maybe next time we can make it adjustable. Wouldn't know why I need it adjustable, but maybe if I do another stock I'll do that. Since I had to stay within ½ an inch maximum on the recoil pad, I just decided to just glue it on. So first we need to make sure that we've got it flat. I didn't think it'd be absolutely necessary, but it would be nice if the butt was flat. So we went back to the Shinto RES file. I think it was like $10, so it's a good deal. I might want to think about ordering a couple more later just to have around. It's a very useful file. Pretty sure it has a lot of applications. But I mean, I have a couple of whole sets of RAS files which I hardly ever use. I mean, I use some of the small radius, like the 3/8 rounds and maybe the ½ inch round or half round, but barely. Mostly everything came from that Shinto RAS file. Once we got it all set, we just put some tape on to soak up the ooze, and because I knew I was going to put a lot of epoxy. I mix up some 5-minute epoxy with some black pigment just to hide it. And I knew I was going to put extra on there because I wasn't sure if that slipper, after sanding it off, would absorb a lot of the epoxy. So I was prepared. I made sure we had tape on the butt because this was going to ooze out all over the place. Once we got it all set up, just a matter of letting it set for about, it's a 5-minute epoxy. I think this will pretty much end this section because we've done the shaping and sanding. We're down to 220, and that should be good enough for a finish. Haven't figured out what kind of finish I was going to spray on there next. I just got to look what I got. But just in case that slipper was absorbing some of the epoxy, we'll put a little weight on it. And that should do. And stay tuned for the next part. We'll be doing, I have no idea. I guess we're going to do the finish, and we're going to bed the receiver and barrel, and whatever else I find. For now, part 2, I guess we're done. Just going to let this set up and figure out how we're going to trim it later.